All right, welcome back. It's Jamie.
And it's Natalie, and this is Where's John's Daughter?
What are you thinking? Are we about to reveal our guest for episode 8?
We do have a special guest for this episode. Can't believe there's 8 of them already, but happy to have him. Who do
All
we have?
right, we've got Trey, my brother.
How you guys doing? How you guys doing?
Good.
Long awaited, I suppose.
Yes, long overdue, but we're glad to have you.
Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. All right, Natalie, kickstart it.
Yeah, so, I mean, just from the beginning, I guess that's the best place to start. Obviously, you're Jamie's brother. Your mother is Traci, and I guess you just found out about, well, no, you knew about Jamie a little bit before all of this, right?
Yep. So I've known her ever since I was a child, more or less. I'd probably say somewhere around like 8 years old is what I'm
Wow.
gonna guess. Probably even maybe 7. But I would say probably about like I said, I was with my dad one weekend. And I just remember we were at like a laundromat or something like that, and I don't know what happened between them. Clearly, some kind of argument. But I just remember he was like, you got a sister you never met, and of course I'm like, what? And I was super smart for my age, so I definitely understood. And he's like, yeah, you got a sister, blah blah blah. Your mom never told you, and I'm like, well, no, you know what I mean? Like, obviously not. And I just remember going home and then obviously confront my mom immediately. And she just kind of, I think from what I remember, kind of more or less like ran away, like upstairs because she was upset. And then I remember her definitely getting a hold of him and, you know, letting her know how upset she was that he had told me, you know what I'm saying? Because she wanted to tell me and all that kind of deal. It definitely affected her because I remember that day too, she was just in her room for probably most of the rest of the day because it was a shock for me to bring it up being so young.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that type of wound, now that I have kids of my own, doesn't heal.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure she was probably blindsided, didn't expect you to bring it up that day. I think sometimes when we have something that's heavy on us and don't like to talk about it because it's painful, and then if somebody else brings it up, it's like, oh my gosh, that was taken out of your control again, because like I'm sure she would have wanted to tell you, however she
yeah.
would have chose to do that.
That or she may have, like me. I mean, I like to say, oh, like I try to think of like Scorpio traits, like, oh, Scorpios are known to bottle things up, but she would bottle things up and hide her emotions and then be strong. So I think that's why sometimes I do that too. And so I tried not to do that. Therefore, because if I would have learned more sooner, I feel like, maybe because like she had said in another episode when we had first talked about me into those talk shows and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, you know, because growing
But
up, there,
again, you were 8. You were 8 when
yeah,
you found out. So, I mean, even for an 8-year-old, you understood it, but I mean, you're still a kid
I just
yourself.
remember, like I said, she was down for that half of the day at least. The rest of the day, upset. Definitely, you know, told my dad, a thing or two, of course. And then obviously I was young, so to me, it kind of just went on until I was a little bit older. And then I remember there was an incident, and I think that particular incident would have been the driver's license incident when your dad had reached out to him needing her either the birth certificate or needing some kind of a signature. And she had blew up on him and he hung up on her, and that was the last time that she had ever heard from him.
Do you recall any other times that Ron would have called her?
Nope, that's about the only thing. I thought I remember in between that last time and obviously her being young, I felt like my mom saying or someone saying that he used to call my grandma's house because that's always been home base.
Okay.
So I thought that would be a periodic thing, but then talking back to my grandma, you know what I'm saying? She said he wouldn't really, Ron didn't really contact that often. And then again, I didn't really ask my mom about it that much, of course, back then either, because I seen how it affected her so early on, I guess you can say. And this was all pre-internet. So computers, no internet, no nothing like that. It would have just been good old track work. And again, she, like you said, every time she had gotten close, John was able to up and move right away. And so was never, because she found him once, and he made sure that was the last time she, found him again, I guess you can say. Now that I'm older, looking back and seeing all this stuff.
Yeah, I think it was probably Stacy that said that she would call and check in, and then he would actually tell. I think actually told Diane that too. That, oh yeah, I call her mom and check in and give her updates. And I'm thinking, does he
He
really?
definitely wouldn't have talked to her. He, if anything, maybe talked to grandma, but he wouldn't have talked to mom because mom would have, clearly she was feisty. As you
Yeah,
can tell, she was the only one he couldn't control. So that way his ultimate checkmate was that last time per se. So, and you could tell him being prideful and clearly her being prideful, that was a major, headbutt type deal. And so that's why nobody won in the end.
yeah.
You mentioned talk shows. Elaborate a little bit about what you meant there.
So now, we're probably around like, in between 10 and 12. You would see like the Jerry Springer situation, or say Mari, or say even Sally, or even um, Ricky Lake, all those. And the finding lost siblings, finding, DNA tests, finding, parents, all that stuff was super hot, super popular. And I just always kept saying, like, man, if I just write in, you know what I mean? Only thing, of course, I ever knew was John, and then, Jamie or something like that. Of course, my mom would have known your birthday and all that kind of stuff. So maybe something could have came from there. But, man, that's just all I always daydreamed about that. And I was like, man, how cool would that be? And then all of a sudden I could just like surprise mom with it, like, hey, look, we're doing this. And then I started thinking, like, man, because I remember when I surprised her that one time when I said, hey, I got a sister, it sounded like, would she freak out or whatever the case may be? I don't know. But I just remember super, thinking ahead and just like, man, I should write into these, places or whatever the case may be. Of course, didn't act on it. But yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
That's so interesting you said that because yeah, you mentioned that and I was like, that is the perfect time for that. That was the heyday for find your um well, I guess I should say find your family member or something
Yeah.
out, but with other people involved rather than just internet searches.
Or
Right. And
you
then they
are
could
not
get,
the father.
Yeah.
yeah. And they
Yeah,
definitely would have had a team to be able to do something like that, you know what I mean, type deal. So
Yeah.
that's why I always thought like, man, because you would see other shows of other families being reunited, or say like adopted parents being, reunited with, the children that they had given up for death, so on and so forth. So that's where that came from. And then, now to go back to like the internet, remember them always staying up late and then specifically trying to search the internet for you. Because now we
They
have the internet. So now they could, they kept typing in Jamie Stroop, John Stroop, and all of those type of things, and birth dates that she last knew, because obviously she didn't know, he had changed his name and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
and you mean your mom and her friend?
yep, Tina, yep, my mom and her friend Tina, the one that was, I think you met the last one. She was there all the time, but that's why it was important for her to meet you that last. She's like, I got to no matter what, because she's actually extremely shy, but when it came to this, she was not shy.
yeah.
She was ready
Can
for it.
imagine.
She couldn't wait.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
nice to interact with somebody that knew her and, you know, t I mean, to the best of her ability to remember, things that I could ask her questions and she could answer them. Oh,
Rick is another one too. Rick was, um, been a good friend pretty much, I think, before I was even born, type situation.
yeah, and I think, Aunt Martha said, "You might wanna reach out to Rick because we think he was there when my dad took me for that final time." He
Could be a
went
possibility.
Yeah, he went and picked her up from the grocery store, basically.
That would have predated what I would have known. I knew Rick was around like when I was born, because my grandma was like, "Yeah, Rick used to push you up and down the road where I live," type deal. And she's like, "Yep," and I didn't know that. So,
And
but
we're
yeah,
only 2 years apart, so yeah.
right, right, yeah. Like I didn't know you came to this house, so that's another ironic thing.
I didn't know either.
I always pictured the house that they moved from. They lived on over in Post Edition area, which is the cereal factory that everybody knows, Post Cereal. And Post Cereal actually bought their house to develop more land. And then they took that money and bought this house over here. And so the whole time the story was about like when she had came back with you and all that, I thought it was at that house. I didn't know it was at this one. And so that was kind of cool to, I guess, learn that history. I was brought up in that house my whole life, and then to be able to buy a house right down the road from it, super nostalgic. And then I have all my
Yeah.
friends that I grew up with, they live next door. So now our kids play together. So that type of stuff you read about. The foundation I didn't have is what I'm trying to provide for them.
100%. I know what you mean.
What a cool full circle moment for you to have been in that house after 40 years.
Yep.
You're right.
I
It's
didn't think
yeah.
about it like that.
What did you know about maybe like either me disappearing? You have like a kind of a I don't know if it's a cute or like just humbling story that when she showed up with me, grandma had to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
adjustments in the house.
I didn't even know that she had ran away from John twice. Like the whole like getting suckered in and moving to Idaho and then leaving, like finding a way back. And then the whole going to Texas situation and finding a way back. And grandma said that she just popped up like in the middle of the night. And me, again, having a daughter and a child, it's just like, I try to think of how my grandma could even live with that. I guess you can say like her being gone for anyway. But she ended up
Yeah.
coming in the middle of the night and had you, of course. And of course, there was no bassinet, no, you know what I'm saying? Nothing to accommodate a baby. So she told me they ended up just using a dresser drawer, put a bunch of blankets and stuff like that in it. And of course, you were super tiny, so and swaddled. And that's just pretty much, they just made a bassinet out of a dresser drawer.
Wow.
Innovative.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's all I need? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else.
So then
The old thing you see on
were
the cartoons when they pull the dresser drawer out, and but I don't think they left you in the actual dresser. Of course, I'm sure they just used the whole drawer.
Hey,
So that way
I
you couldn't
didn't
roll around.
I didn't think about that.
she wasn't
I
Yeah,
was
going
just
so
hanging
anywhere.
open.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're just hanging out. That's funny.
So you think so you mentioned Texas. So still at this point your mom is still like 16, 17.
Yep.
So she had been gone for did your grandma even know she was pregnant before she had left
Um,
or
Good
I'm
good
not sure about any of that part,
yeah.
good
actually.
question. I don't even know if I, have
Well,
asked
I don't
that.
know
No.
if she would because so many locations are being thrown out. It's like
I know.
she was in Texas and then she came back home. It's like, how did she even get there? Like, I feel like transportation now is more available, but it still like takes effort. So to go cross country, that's a lot back and
Yep.
forth.
That's I think obviously he drove the first time because he was older to drive as far as her getting back, my grandma said that she had reached out to local churches in the area of Idaho or whatever that was, and in St. Louis, Texas. I'm like, man, payphones, even to have money for a payphone was a lot, and to call long distance type deal. But yeah, she just more or less you had to just walk and you know what I'm saying, and then meet people and actually stop and talk to people. So she just was driven, obviously, and then she's always been a leader as well. So therefore, I mean, it only makes sense that you know what I'm saying she was that way. um with Ronnie, I think which is Lacey's dad. Your dad and Lacey's dad, that was her last two, I would say, probably relationships where they were able to, I guess, be controlled. Because after that, I only remember her being the boss. I think she put herself into position of she's like, no, that's not the way. And so she's always been the boss from my sister's dad on out type deal. She's always been that way. But she just ended up going to the churches, I guess, getting donations or whatever the case may be. They bought her a bus ticket, and that's how she was able to make her way back twice. And again, I didn't know she did that until we all obviously met and was sharing more stories and all that kind of stuff. Oh,
It's funny because I did hear a story about her being down in Texas through my shady aunt. My aunt was down there with them, and I don't know if she was pregnant at the time. I don't know any of that. But when my aunt's trying to, paint like the wrong picture, she would say, "Oh, she was always running off, doing whatever she wanted. She never listened." And well, for one, she's a kid.
right,
Like, and why does she need to listen to
right,
this man she's dating, right? But then she had mentioned, yeah, she stole our rent money one time and we didn't have enough money for rent, so we were hustling really hard. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, whatever. Like I think it sounded like she took the money to get on a bus to get out of there.
or
And
that too. Yeah,
I mean, whatever. I mean, well, I've heard the church story too, but honestly, I don't believe my aunt. So regardless, we know she was like trying to flee, you know.
right, right. And so yeah,
I mean,
back to that pregnancy thing. I don't recall my grandma actually saying, or I don't remember. That's a good question. If she was like, oh yeah, she was pregnant, and then up and one day she left and had Jamie in Idaho, or if
Yeah.
I don't see her being, I don't know, I never got that gist, actually. Again, if she was pregnant here and then left, or if she was pregnant elsewhere and had the baby and then popped up like, "Hey." So, clearly she went to go try to find Jamie at one point in time and she got locked up. That's just a wild story to me too, and I
Did
didn't know about
he
that either.
So I had heard she got locked up because my dad said, "I have a restraining order against her. She's an unfit mother." And so the cops believed him and threw her
It
in
was all
jail.
hearsay back then because they couldn't type in stuff like they can do now.
So
So I
I'm
feel like they just
curious, did he actually have a restraining order against her, or was that just
probably not, because as
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what
he
I
never
thought.
wanted his name tied to anything. So, and
Good point.
especially with the courts. So I would assume that he probably would not have done that because then his name would have to be in there and his name would have been tied to her
Yeah.
somehow, some way. And so, he ain't tying nothing from what I've learned.
With a restraining order, I believe both people have to be there to have it served, and you're both in the court.
And like you said back then, it was more of a, I guess you could say, man's world. And of course,
Yeah.
she is younger. And then you got probably a man deputy, and they're like, "Yep, I know what you mean." Instead
Yeah.
of maybe him looking at him like, "You're 25 and she's what?" And then they got a kid, whole thing. But then again, back then, they could have been just lazy, like, "Oh, I don't want to get into it." I feel like that's probably a lot of the thing too. Back then, a lot of people just didn't want to get into it. And then went to the police and all that stuff. It was always some kind of a dead end because you never know what someone's feeling. I try to think about maybe being a cop too, and let's say that cop is being just wants to be lazy that day for some reason, and then they just don't want to do it because they're like, "Man, I'm gonna have to contact so and so."
You kind of like that, but also they didn't have anything like, "Who is it? Where are they? I don't know. I have a first name. That's it." It
Right.
might have it's like there's just wasn't information to even give,
Yep.
other
It
than
was
the
all
basic.
hearsay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I mean,
I
you
think
would
that's
think
why it
that
was, I don't wanna say not taken serious, but yeah, not, where these days with all technology, the seriousness is more, you know what I mean, obviously, because everyone's speaking up about it.
Kudos for her holding on to my birth certificate all those years, the real one, the actual first one I ever had.
Yep, I
Yeah.
actually my grandma gave me mine too, so I have my original birth certificate as well, along with my kindergarten report card.
Oh, love it.
I actually looked up the teacher, she's still alive, and I seen, and she retired from teaching her whole life. So it's crazy because I think back, and I'm like, "Dang, she was probably just starting her teaching career," and she was my, and what's cool is everything was above average, so I'm like, "Dang, I was a smart kid," for kindergarten, and then, it said that I, took interest in shapes, and I was really good with putting the shapes where they're supposed to go, and then really good with like teaching others. And so, yeah, it was pretty sweet to see that. I don't want to say that that's all she had, but that's all she had. So, that was definitely a keepsake.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I'm literally picturing your mom, a 17-year-old, just holding you in a blanket, in something, just like walking down the streets holding you to get home from Texas to Michigan. I mean, that's a long trek. I
or
mean, I
yeah, or
wonder if she even
Idaho to
had
Michigan,
or
yeah.
Idaho, like she have a bag. I mean, I'm sure she had a bag, but like
or picturing that person on the bus, like in
yeah,
the movies,
yep,
basically
yep,
the
that
baby's crying, she's trying to console the baby. Yeah. Clearly, she's always been a survivor. She's always been able to get through anything that was needed, I guess you can say. Growing up, she always worked, two jobs if she needed to. So that's why we moved a lot because she wouldn't settle for less. But then I'm like, man, you're just high maintenance mom. Like, Lord have mercy.
I
Or she was always a hard worker. She wasn't ashamed to work two jobs, you know what I'm saying? Or sacrifice herself. Cause I remember like one time I'm like, man, mom, why are you selling the car? Blah, blah, and now that of course she didn't tell me, but back then it was probably to pay the rent. And then when she would, like, say, like with Todd or even like with Russ per se, if she was in a good relationship or whatever, I always wondered, like, why, when things are going good, why would she just not settle down? Like why wouldn't she be settled? Like, this is just settle in. And again, now being older, having a child and all this kind of stuff. I didn't know the severity of, her broken heart, obviously, because we didn't talk about it. So that's for what I was talking about, like me bottling my stuff up. So therefore I'm trying to express more with my girlfriend and kids where I didn't get, because maybe that will help. So if she would have maybe expressed more to me, I could have known the severity of it and then known why, maybe addiction came about, you know what I mean? Or why she wasn't settled. But now that I know, in thinking in hindsight, clearly when you're missing a child, there's just a hole in your heart that you can't fill. So therefore that's why she was never settled. She could have everything she wanted, and then still be disrupted And I always wondered why. And again, because you weren't there, and then she couldn't understand how there's all this technology. Even then, 2015, 2010, 20, what I'm saying, all them years, she still just can't find you on Facebook, couldn't find you anywhere because of the name change.
The name change and I was difficult. I didn't wanna be found type of person. I want fly under the radar.
So
But
Trey,
yep, no, it just, oh, go
when
ahead. Sorry.
it's okay. When you said you felt like your mom wasn't settled, what did you mean by that? Like she just always like was upset or
The void of Jamie not being there and not being able to find her or at least have some kind of an answer. That's why I'm like, for me, I didn't understand her pain because she didn't express it from missing Jamie. She ended up, self addiction, all that kind of stuff. Why would she choose all those things and not just settle in, live life, whatever the case may be? Russ provided a number of times. He helped her start over. He helped start over a few times. And every time they would start over, she would always find her way back into that rut, and I didn't understand it. But now that I do understand having a child and all that kind of stuff, I couldn't imagine my child being missing and then not being able to just hopeless. These days, people are finding people no matter what. But to literally not find John or you would be
Mhm.
like, what is the deal? Like, how is this crazy? Of course, she probably didn't know Brenda, didn't think of to look up Margaret, or didn't, what I'm saying? She's not thinking of them. When I bought my table upstairs, I knew I would have family gatherings because I wanted to have that for my kids. So I wanted a big enough table to have. That was another thing about Stacey. She has a huge family. So I'm like, this is perfect. And so, but out of all those family gatherings, I didn't know that you would be there.
And we just need to clarify, his girlfriend's name is Stacy as
Yeah.
well, just in
Yeah.
case anyone gets like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Not her stepmom, Stacy. Another
Yeah.
Stacy.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of
Out of
similarities.
like I said, out of all the daydreaming I did when we were putting this house together, I never thought that this would be it. That's why when we all were there, I snapped that picture because that's the only way you can freeze time. And so that was probably the last thing on my mind as far as that. And so to have that, that was just made it even better.
It was a
Or
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yep. Or when you guys were filming those little your TikTok videos in the front yard. I was just standing back man. I
Please
was
don't
like,
post that
I
one, Jamie.
I knew, I had a big yard for my kids and for, events and family gatherings, but I didn't know that a
You're
4-year mystery, my sister that, what I'm saying, would literally be,
running down the running down the yard at full sprint.
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of just said that. I said, brought her home.
Oh,
Yep.
that's so sweet. One of the questions we've gotten a lot is why weren't the parental guidance or authority stronger? Is that a good way of
Or
putting it? Or
other
Natalie?
other family, other friends, I feel like you can imagine if somebody wronged your sibling or if your kids or anything, it'd be all over you'd be all over them. So I guess people are wondering why didn't anyone do more? Or I should say, it seems from what we know, was there more done, or why wasn't there brothers, grandpa, other men involved, or do you know anything related to that?
I was wondering the same thing too. That's why when we all first met at Brenda's house at one time was thought that had the same thought. Sorry, my mom has 3 brothers and an older sister, plus my grandpa. He didn't mess around either. That was the only I remember Ronnie being, like I said, my sister's dad, being aggressive, but when it came to my grandpa, he was not aggressive. So I just remember my grandpa, to me, being a child, being a badass. How did he let that happen? The grandpa I know would have not done that, especially over and over and over. And then my uncle Dennis and my aunt Vicky, they're literally twice her age. So I didn't understand that either. And then my uncle Herb, he was what you would call a badass. You know what I'm saying? Marble smoking, beer drink. And I didn't understand either. I'm like, dude, what is the deal here? And that's when I didn't know if it was Margaret or someone had said more or less that John was, pretty intimidating back then and always had, younger people who would, beat you up or whatever the case may be. I also learned, because I didn't know either, that I guess Vicky had tried to step in and take my mom and basically move her away and so on and so forth. But learning that clearly, my mom just being a stubborn, hardhead, independent, thinks she knows it all. She would escape, I guess. And so I don't want to say like they just was like, man,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't think anybody, well, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I can imagine you don't think he's going to take her child away. Like I after all the threatening and stuff like that, I can't imagine that was at the forefront of people's minds to think that was going to happen.
yeah, that's a lot of faith that they had trusting. Because man, when I really think about even when my child goes somewhere now, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to buy, I don't want to have a cell phone for her because I don't want to pay the bill. But then when she goes somewhere, I'm like, I wish I knew her location right now and blah blah blah. Even though I know who she's with and who she's at, I just the crime opportunity is so crazy these days. Even me as a kid, when I was running around, even that whole like be home in the streetlights thing, like I was just running around and I'm like, man, my grandma, they always had faith that I would just always show up and no one would just snatch me out somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to say danger wasn't that crazy back then like it is today. I don't know.
I think
I
they
would
didn't
assume it was,
and
but
people didn't know any different. They didn't have technology to say, "Oh, we were missing it." It's like it just was what it
yep,
was. And now that we've had kind of a foot in both worlds, you kind of see like, "Oh, yeah, I can't imagine not having that anymore."
Mhm.
right,
You can
right.
always
And
get an
that's
Apple AirTag. Put an Apple AirTag on her.
so I was gonna do that too. And then someone was like, "Oh, the AirTag don't work unless she has an iPhone." But I was like, "Why would that? That defeats the purpose. That doesn't
It'll
make a
work with
sense."
your iPhone.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was gonna do that too, and I'm like, "Man, she got, like, 2, 3 pairs of shoes, I'm gonna have to buy, like, 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Just put them in
Put it in her
everything.
ponytail. I've seen
I'm gonna
it,
have
them
to
put it in her
hollow all her
ponytail.
stuff out, hollow it
Uh,
out, and glue the thing, put it back in all of her
just chip it in the arm, it's fine.
that too, right? I was
Yeah.
like, "What kinda jewelry would she not take off?" And I'm like, "Everything, she's gonna take all of it off." It's crazy to think because even when I was younger, my mom got a pager, and I'm like, "Mom, let me just carry your pager, and when you want me home, when it beeps, I know to come home because I wanted to look cool in front of all my friends with that clear green pager or whatever color there was, because it's just a pager was cool anyway."
I had a red one.
Yeah, I never
Clear red one.
and then when you
Oh, yeah.
finally got I remember my stepdad, Todd, got a pager that actually would show words after him, you know what I mean? Like, they just started advancing. Then the cell phones came, and you had to buy it per minute. It was like $2 per minute. Like type, and then you would waste a minute if the voicemail or if the answer machine pipped. It was funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
the way
remember
to
that.
Don't answer if you don't want to, but, I was just gonna make a correlation. So,
yeah, totally fine.
I
um
know, I'm like, "What's
I
going
know,
on?"
sorry. I was gonna say it, but I forgot we could pause. So Trey, you mentioned your daughter. About how old is she now?
13. She just turned 13.
So she's 13, and if your mom met John at 14, I feel like that's gotta put things in a very weird perspective.
Yeah,
Just
because again, that was news to me too. I mean, I guess obviously it takes 9 months to have a baby, but I didn't know it was 14. I thought maybe the 16 situation, and then maybe things happen quickly. But once I learned that, I'm like, wow, no, her being
Mhm.
14, that would obviously drive me crazy. Even
Yeah.
in my childhood, I was sadly had a lot of freedom. Well, not sadly, but I had a lot of freedom, and I was hanging out with older kids, and I was actually getting in trouble, and I was already in trouble at my daughter's age. So I'm like, man, I can't even imagine what my mom was going through with me getting in trouble, at what now is my daughter's age type deal. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but she hasn't been in trouble and she's doing better than I am. So I guess those, curses are getting broken, day by day. Yeah.
So you're doing something right, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I think, and Jamie, correct me, I think Tracy met John at 14, but things didn't escalate for a couple years. So I think she was 17 when she actually had you, right?
Yeah, because Margaret recalls being in school and Margaret's friends kinda teased Margaret saying, "Do you know who your brother is dating? Like, he's dating a girl younger than you." And so she was like, kind of, "What?" She got teased for what he was doing.
Interesting. It's just crazy to put it in that perspective, especially having a daughter that's 13 now, because
And
totally different.
somebody, it might have been Brenda, when I first reached out, sent me a picture of her.
Picture of Tracy.
I think it just says the grade. So she sent me a picture of her, like, in 8th grade or something from the
So
yearbook.
yep.
Yeah.
What's wild is when I actually signed up for school, they had the yearbooks, my mom started talking about her going in 8th grade, and then the enrollee, like the superintendent or whatever, pulled the yearbook out, and I remember seeing that 80 that's kinda funny, seeing that picture from 8th grade.
Yeah, and then correct me if I'm wrong, did she quit high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I wonder, like, if my dad had a play in that too, because
Well, I'd assume so. I mean, I don't wanna say it's all him, but yeah, I mean, that and
it's okay, you can say it,
she was
everyone
too well,
says it.
Uh, mom's always I know, and she's clearly always, too smart for her own good. So I'm sure she probably knew better, as we all thought we knew better when we were younger. So she probably
Mhm,
just I know she ended up going back and getting her GED and doing all that stuff. It never stopped her from getting a job. She like at one point in time we lived in these apartment complex areas, and my uncle, Larry, which is her brother, lived down the way. And I'm like, this is great. Like my cousins are here all the time, and he was able to watch us all the time. But again, lots of freedom. We were able to get in trouble, run around, do whatever the case may be. Luckily, I didn't break the law or do anything like that. But I don't know. To me, it was the time of my life, I guess you can say. But back then, when I look at it, I'm like, man, she was always working to provide, and
mhm.
not that one-on-one time like what I'm trying to do with like my kids now, and so on and so forth. And just learning those valuable things as a child, I guess you can say. Structure. She was a heartbreaker. I can tell you that. Everyone always, from now that I'm older and I know about boys and girls now, man, she had no shortage of any attention. Everyone was always trying to get her attention. Obviously, she was pretty. So,
Mhm.
and then, yeah. And then, of course, outgoing. She always had cool shit like cars or, she always had a nice car. That was her thing. Nice car. That was just always her thing. Of course, our house would be good too. But, yep. Like I said, if she wanted something or if she knew maybe a lifestyle could be better or anything like that, then yep, she would do it. One thing that always rung out to me is they always wanted to get a boat. Like Todd and her always wanted to get a boat. Yeah, I never thought of being a boat owner. Then I got a boat, and I always say, "Mom, I've got that boat." I always, when I talk to her, type deal, or if I'm out there, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Nice.
All those names you mentioned, because when we first found out about things, what did we have? We had the internet. So we're on Facebook. We're looking at this. We're looking at that. Okay, somebody was tagged in
Mhm.
this picture. There's a Todd. There's I think we saw a Rick. We saw so many different people and trying to like put pieces together based off of no information. We don't know who people are in the photos. We are just seeing what we're seeing. And I just remember it's so just as you said the names, it took me right back to that moment when we're literally dissecting, okay, this was posted at this time. So maybe this is her husband, or maybe da 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 da. Like literally playing
Yep,
detective.
trying to create
Mhm.
timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, Todd. I mean, he's still a character. He lives out in Vegas, and what's funny is knowing him from back then, he was always like the real upbeat stepdad. He was awesome. Never had any kids. Still doesn't have any kids. Um, him living in Vegas literally just suits him and his personality. The kid that never grew up. It's a playground at all times. He was fun. I never had someone to go out and play catch. And now when I think about that, it was all with him. We went out just simply playing catch with the football or playing catch with the baseball or anything sport related. He did get me into baseball one summer and I got one trophy from that. So I got one sports trophy, I guess you can say, because you know, I never had like a sports person or whatever the case, to get me into that kind of stuff. Always dabbled in it and that was fun. But yeah, Ty was an awesome stepdad. We got to do a lot of things with that. And then Russ was the other. He was the last, I guess you could say, her latest husband. Russ. He was a very quiet, low key person, very, very smart, very supportive. Sometimes it was her way or the highway, so he would be a pushover for her because he loved her and stuff like that.
Mhm. Were they still together when she passed?
No, no. So, when they lived out in Kalamazoo together and all that stuff, things were going good. Everything was fine. She was working. She actually was buying and selling stuff online. She ended up buying like a desk and she bought a mannequin because she would buy and resell like say like Rock Revival or any kind of like popular denim jeans or like just clothes or whatever the case may be. So that way it would cure her niche for shopping because she always wanted to shop. So she always wanted to buy stuff. She always wanted to buy, clothes and shoes. So that would one way to cure her niche for shopping and then also make some money in the process. Mom's dream was to move to Arizona at one time. He made it happen. He found a job. He went down there first, got an apartment, got everything stable, brought her down, and they lived there for about 6 months or 7 months or something like that. And somehow, some way, if you're looking, you're gonna find it. And like I said, she just never was settled, no matter how much she thought she could get away from it or how much she could fill that void. The void wasn't filled, so therefore she would just self-medicate.
I know.
Arizona is so weird. I don't
That's
know. I
Yep,
couldn't
she lived
yeah.
there and, it would have been '04 it would have been '04, '05. So it would have
Okay.
been
I
that
was in
time.
school. I was in college then, yeah.
yeah. Let's so let's jump to the part where Jamie writes this letter, sends it to your grandma, and your grandma calls you and you find out about everything. Tell us a little bit about
Yep. So we actually me and my grandma were already together. Earlier that day, we had ran around a few places or whatever the case may be, and then she dropped me back off at my house. It was around 6 or so, and so I'm getting things around at my house or whatever. Next thing you know, she had just left and then calls me right away. So I'm in the middle of something. So I'm like, ah, man, like what, not really frustrated, but I'm just like, hello, and she's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, you just left here. Like what? I'm doing what I just was doing 5 seconds ago. And then she was like, do you got a second? And I'm like, yeah. And, like, what is the deal? She's like, well, I'll be right over. Now, of course, I always think the worst. I'm like, man, did she get some kind of a diagnosis out of nowhere or something? And now, it was just
in
crazy.
5 minutes.
And so, yep, yeah, right. Or maybe she was waiting on some paperwork and it just came something. So I'm like, why
Yeah.
is she coming here? So now I'm freaking out. She pulls up and she hands me the envelope, and of course I pull it out and I'm like, great, it's a freaking diagnosis. And no, I ended up started to clearly I seen the pictures and then I seen the typed letter, and then I'm just like, oh man. So, I'm smart with it. So I pretty much instantly started like knowing, and I read it and I'm like, man. And I look over here and she's strong too. So she just kind of shaking a little bit, but she started getting teary eyed a little bit. She was like, isn't that crazy? And I'm like, it was a lot for a second. Obviously, had to process it for a second. So we just, kind of stayed silent for about, 5 minutes or so, just kind of like looking at the pictures, rereading the message again. That way I can, again, clearly understand it. And, man, I don't know. I was just like, wow, really, obviously disbelief, shock. Clearly I knew it was real. I always have
You never
faith.
doubted that it was like, I mean, it wouldn't be fake something sending that and the pictures and everything, but there a moment where you were like, is this for real?
No, no, because I just honestly, I've always never underestimated anything, and then I also never doubt anything. So I guess I don't want to say never is never, and so therefore when it happened, I'm just like, "Puh, there it is. I knew it somehow, some way, or something, or whatever the case may be." And it's like I didn't know it, but then when I read it, and I'm like, "Yep." I don't want to say I never lost hope that I would, I guess, meet her. But then again, I never thought I would either. You know what I'm saying? So really, so seeing that, like I said, that letter, I was obviously super shocked, but then at the same time, I'm like, finally. And then it took me about a day or two to even email back, because now everything it's clearly sweet, but bittersweet, obviously. And then of course, like she said, she sent it priority so she could track it. So me, I'm like, she tracked this, so I need to definitely email back soon because she's gonna be like, why are they not saying nothing? So I already
Well,
knew that.
yeah. It was a
Yeah.
day. It was like a day.
Yep, so I
It was
already knew that, so I was like, "Let me," because we got the package or she got the letter at 6, so I emailed like a whole day later, and I felt like this day would probably come, or I always held out hope for it, and so that's why the headline read what it did as far as, we've been waiting for this day. Because again, we knew about you, well,
Yeah.
and then again,
yeah.
once we learned the name change, that just made all the sense.
I happened to be in Michigan at the same time that she sent that letter, maybe
Oh,
about an
yeah.
hour-ish from, where you guys are, and Jamie was texting me, she's like, "I sent it. I sent it. I didn't hear anything back. Go drive over there and knock on their door," like, jokingly, and I was like, "No, I'm not gonna do that," and
I
then
did some knock,
by
but
the
I
next
was like,
time
"You're like an hour away. Go
I
over there
know.
and just, like, drive by and see what's going on." Just like
Yeah.
She's like, "Are they
But
outside on
then
a picnic? What's going on?"
literally, and
I
the
was like,
next
"I'll pay to get
morning
your car detailed. Go get your car detailed."
That's funny, yep.
I woke up the next
Start
morning
calling
to
Brenda.
yeah, well, she sent me the email that you'd sent, and I, to this day, still get chills every time just reading that headline, the "We've been waiting for this our whole lives" kinda thing. I mean, like, I'm sure that was a moment of relief for Jamie, just wondering, does anyone know about her? Was anybody looking for her? Did anybody think anything of it? And then to see that, it's like heartbreaking, but relief at the same time because it's like, "Okay, I'm safe. They did know about me."
I
Oh yeah.
barely slept too, like, Kevin was getting up early to go golf because we were at a wedding situation, and it's, like, super dark and cold in that room, and I'm just, like I looking at my phone, and then all of a sudden I'm like, and I, like, pop out of bed, I'm like, I got an email.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turns out it's an email from Macy's.
Yeah.
You're like, man, not the email I want. That's why I was telling like, man, I was like, because again, I knew it was tracked and I knew, you know what I'm saying, and who wouldn't be suspense, you know what I'm saying, obviously. I just wanted to figure out the perfect email, essentially, I guess you can say. So I was just trying to figure out what to say, and yeah, and then of course trying to um spell out 30, 40 years worth of stuff in one email was just not obviously not have some like, what do I say first, or whatever the case may be. So yep, and then finally sent it, and then just getting the emails back and forth, just learning, you know what I'm saying? Because of course, you're trying to explain it, and I can see where, like me, when I'm explaining it in my head and trying to type it, I'm explaining it way faster in my head than typing it, so I tend to jump subjects, and I'm like, "Oh, man," so keeping up with everyone's name was kinda hard and through the emails and all that. And then again, that bittersweet feeling, like I couldn't wait to hear, but then again, just learning the disappointment and all that stuff, and learning the stories, like especially when you reached out to Vicky and was learning that at like I didn't know about Vicky's stuff too. And then of course meeting, it was better to put all the names to all the emails and then start learning the stories and fill the gaps, you know, in between all those emails and all that kind of stuff. And then of course it's never enough time when you're trying to make up for time. So like that for initial, you know, there was just so much to cram being wintertime. That's why 4th of July was great. That
Well, let's
was
talk about
definitely the slowdown.
that
Well,
first
hold on,
meeting.
I have
Oh,
one question.
yeah.
So, what did you think when you saw, like, the side-by-side photos or just seeing my face, period?
What did I think? Well, obviously the biggest thing is the cheeks. And then because I have that too, like the just like the round situation. And then they've found good ones to put with, especially with what they had because she didn't have a lot of photos on that Facebook.
That was Natalie.
Yep.
I
And
was in
then
disbelief. I was looking at the Facebook and I was like, "Oh my god, this is Jamie. This is Jamie in 20 years. Holy cow. Holy cow."
yeah, and then you having only those pictures to work with, but then, like, when I look at your Facebook and I see pictures, or maybe I even see you upload stuff, I can see that, and there was actually, I think, one wedding photo where you had just turned just right, and the way it was exactly how mom looked too, and because of course, you know what I'm saying, I'm able to put more together in real time, so I was just like, "Yep." I mean, you guys are completely identical, so even down to, like, the skin and even, like, say, like, even the freckles on your arms, I, like, looked at that type of stuff.
I was always curious about that. I'm like, because I see some of her photos now, and she looks tan, and I'm thinking, "Where the hell did I get this pale ass skin from?"
Well, she always tanned, and then she actually went to a dermatologist when she was, I think, in her mid-30s, and they were like, "Your skin is double your age. You're gonna have to stop, like, tanning." And, yeah, so she started slowing down because my whole life she went to the tanner, and then when we were at the beach, she was just using, like, oil and water, like, you know what I'm
Yep,
saying? Like, "Oh, wow." And so,
that's it.
yep, she was
That's it.
I'm sure it was equally hard for her to look and not find and then look, and it just was all consuming. I'm sure it would be a roller
oh, I know.
coaster throughout the years because it was a lot of years, but, like, I say this kindly, like, you have to live. Like, if she thought, "I'm gonna find her one day," or "I haven't found her," like, she still has to she can't let it consume her because she had kids. She had a life to live. Like, I wonder if that was almost some self-preservation as well.
Pretty much everything was good up until I feel like I was around 17 or 18, and then that's when she you know, it, like, spilled over to where she just I don't wanna say given up, but, like, not the mom that I knew, I guess you can say. But then Russ helped them get out of that hole. They moved to Arizona, and then I'm
So
sure during those times, even though I didn't know, I'm sure she would continue now that, you know, later on. Why would she not try to be on her phone looking and just, like you said, finding dead ends, and it's like, "Man." But no, we had a good upbringing and all that stuff. Obviously, I got in trouble, but that was my own fault or whatever the case may be. We were always taken care of. The only thing I think lacked would be one-on-one parenting time, I guess you can say, or like that intimacy parenting time, or like the snuggles or cuddles or something like that. But I think that would be, and now that I know what I know, that's extremely important. It don't matter what you have material wise or whatever the case may be. It's literally the time spent. because I can even see it with my kids literally right now actively. My daughter has everything she wants, but then also making sure that she's grateful and thankful and all that stuff. Because I didn't have it. And then when I got it, that's what makes me a better person today because I'm grateful and thankful. My grandma always believed in me. She got me a car. I got my license, all that kind of stuff. And just from 18 all the way to now, have always stayed on the right path, of course. And then always, elevated, I guess you can say. Like my grandma helped me get into this house, Stacy and her and all that kind of stuff like that. So my grandma's always believed in me because she knew and she's always known. Plus, she's pretty much been my mom and dad as well. So, and then of course, I want to make her proud. So I just, ain't no way I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
Do you think that I think John's go-to was always like, "Oh, people are crazy. Oh, they're into this, into that." Do you think any of that was happening before he took Jamie? Like, was there do we speculate that there could have been any truth to that, or was there information about that, or he just
No, she wouldn't have been,
making
no,
stuff
because
up?
yep, nope, she wouldn't have been on no kind of drugs or anything like that. So my dad, he said that the one thing he did always say was when he found out or when she found out she was pregnant with me, because she would smoke cigarettes and obviously drink beer, whatever the case may be, being 20, because she was 20 when she had me, so 19. And she quit everything.
Strength has been a common denominator amongst all the women and anybody involved in the stories.
I think that's why, like Stacy, she's a super strong woman, and that's why I'm attracted to like women like that. I've known Stacy, my girlfriend, I should say, for over 16 years, but
Good reputation.
I just knew she was special, and I knew that I was gonna mess it up when I was younger. Strong women, that's what this whole thing is about. Strong women, like I said, that's why I have, I think, a niche for wanting a strong woman too. Because my mom, she never really gave any excuses, even though she had every excuse in the book, you know what I'm saying? She still never, gave up per se
Yeah.
until her body gave up, I guess you can say.
Yeah, like when you guys first met. Let's talk about that. So that would have
Uh,
been you found all this out in July, and then November, the following November at Thanksgiving is when you guys met?
Yep.
yep, yep. She had, came up. It was so yeah, Thanksgiving, and then wintertime. We all met at her aunt Brenda's, and that was the first meeting, I guess you can say,
Were you
as far as
nervous?
in person wise. Yeah, I was me. I was ready though at the same time.
Yeah.
But yep, nervous, ready, and then just ready for all the emotions that were gonna come with it, all that kinda good stuff, and yeah, no, super excited. Um, had I never really even do family photo shoots, but I was like, "Man, we got to, like, capture this time," just because, again, now that I know what I know, pictures are super important, I guess you could say, and so I was like, "Yep." So I tried to at least get that. Of course, it was freezing, but they still came out good, and
Mhm.
Reconnect, look at pictures, share stories.
Yeah. I just remember, like, we've talked about how I'm not, like, an affectionate person, I'm not a hugger, but, like, I felt like, "Okay, I need to, like, take the lead." Like, as far as grandma goes, I, like, definitely hugged her because 'cause I'm like, "Well, at least she got to see me for a hot minute when I was a baby, and she's probably wondered all the," I don't know where
oh,
her
yeah.
emotions would be. So, yeah, it was and then we shared pictures and yeah.
Yep, she's a strong one too. She definitely does not show emotion, does not speak about emotion. My grandpa started coming around and romancing her, leaving flowers on her doorstep and trying to get a hold of her and all that kind of stuff. And eventually he won her over, and that's how they got together. Because I always asked, and they got together. They got married January 1st of '66, and then mom came in October. She's like built of steel, as far as I'm concerned.
Jamie, you mentioned when I think we found your mom passed something about a heart, and I think you were like, "Oh, I wonder if it's genetic." I wonder, like, you start thinking about your own genetics, and you're like, "Well, that's true. Like, this is my mom. It could be something that I need to look into eventually." That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
well, yeah, and that was interesting because I have a thyroid issue, and ironically, like, Diane had thyroid cancer, and so I just thought, "Okay, she's obviously my mom, right?" And
Right.
then to come to find out that she wasn't, then I'm like, "Well, shit." And then Whitney goes, what Tracy passed away from is actually, like, really really, what's the word I'm looking for? It is genetic,
Genetic.
and a lot of people get it. So I don't know what
Mhm.
the word is
It
I'm
was
looking
like
for.
congestive heart failure is what hers was, but she had like a leaky valve.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the
Or
leaky
something
valve
like
part.
that. And so, yeah, she had a leaky valve in her heart, and obviously, stress and then lifestyle can clearly
Mhm.
age the heart, and I just
Yeah.
believe that's what. And then clearly, no diet, so there was no kind of she didn't have to eat healthy. She was just always looked good, I guess you could say. So she
Mhm.
was always fit, always skinny, always, it didn't matter. She could eat a lot. She was that type of person and still be fit, skinny, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I didn't know it was as serious as it was until it was too late on my end. Cause me, I'm like, okay, I've seen my mom bounce back from many, 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 many battles. So when my grandma called and said, hey, your mom's in the hospital, you should get up here. I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of something. Like I was working and I was also driving somewhere or whatever the case may be. I figured, okay, she went to the hospital before she was able to get better and get out. And then she was like, no, this is different. And then she started talking about the reverend and this and that. We went up there and we sat with her all the way up to like 2, 3 in the morning, pretty much thinking she was going to pass away that day. And I'm like, holy, I didn't even take it to severity until that moment. Because, like I said, I've seen my mom win every battle in life. So, therefore, and then I knew she had heart issues, but and I knew she was actually scheduled to get heart surgery. But her heart had to be at a 35% or more. And it was at like a 30 type deal. So she needed to work on getting it better or whatever the case may be. And I didn't know where her percentage was. So that's why I said again, I feel like I failed as far as like knowing that part and taking it serious. And then again, her probably hiding it and, well, actually her hiding it again, hiding her emotions, hiding her whatever, not trying to burden me with it. And yeah. And so that time, and what's crazy is the doctors all said that it was bad. And then I don't know what was going on, but after about 3 or 4 hours of being there, she started to wake up. She started to be normal. Her vitals all of a sudden turned normal because they had her on all kinds of medicine, like machines. I actually went and got the doctor, and he was like, "Holy crap!" Like he started being like surprised. He's like, "This is odd," because again, we were sitting there thinking that she was just about to pass away then, but she ended up getting better, and they transferred her to a room, and from that, we went from like intensive care to a room, and then we're there for 2 days, and then they transferred her to my grandma's house, and I got 3 more weeks with her basically, and so I was able to,
Oh,
I
wow,
guess
that's
you can
it.
say, yeah. So from basically, we thought we were going to lose her from that second to after 4 hours, she like got better. Her heart wasn't in rhythm because clearly she had a leaky valve, so therefore it wasn't beating like it should. Blood pressure was probably down. So yeah, it was pretty tough. I still was thankful to get those 3 weeks extra from that moment.
So after meeting at Thanksgiving and stuff, your kids were there and everything. How did you explain to them who this was? Or did you keep it real with them? Or did you kind of say, oh, never met my sister before, but we're going to?
Pretty much kept it real with 'em.
Yeah.
Um, Audrey's smart. I posted a video not too long ago with her. She was 2 years old. She could say everybody's name. She could say anything I could tell her. She's just always been very intuitive, very smart, very with it. You can't. There's just no reason. Trey, same thing. Trey Junior. He's now the age that I would have been told that about what that my dad told me about Jamie, and so I think about him at that time, and I'm like, man, and I was pretty smart, and Trey's very smart too. So nope, kept it real from the jump. I don't want to say they kind of always knew because there wasn't a. I don't want to say there was a reason to bring it up until the letter came, and then when the letter came, it was just like that was it, and then we just was like, hey, check this out, and and pretty much let her know, and built it up, and from there, and they were anxious to meet her right along with it, or right along with all of us. So
That's awesome.
yep, just kept it real with them.
Yeah.
I I think Tracy, the woman that told me, she always kept it real with her kids too. She never lied to them. There's just my dad lied so much that
Yeah,
even like me as a person, I'm like, I just can't lie. Even I just can't lie. Like,
I know that first meeting was probably surreal. It was the buildup. Everyone's excited. And then 4th of July came around and it felt a little bit more relaxed. So we're meeting different people. What was that? How did
oh
that
yeah,
differ?
when you picked us up on the boat, and I'm standing on the dock, and then your friend with you is like, "Well, that must be your sister because she looks exactly like your mom." And I was like, "Finally, someone said it."
yeah.
Like,
So that would be Don. He's pretty much like my brother. I met Don at Steak and Shake around 2007. Um, and then from then on out, we've just been friends. ever since then. We have a lot of similarities, a lot of characteristics, a lot of traits, a lot of beliefs, everything. So, yep, that he got to meet my mom very early on. He, knew her and so forth. Again, pretty much from '07 all the way up until, what I'm saying, 2019. So he was super excited for us to learn this too. And because he understands the pain of, because he lost his father early on. So he kind of understands and he's just all around a really good dude.
Yeah, he was cool for sure.
He loves to cook and so do I. So we both like to host.
I've never seen so many grills literally on the water, on posts sticking out of the water.
Yep.
I mean, I've been to lakes. We
So
brought
that's where I
food,
got the
like, that's
idea from. I'm like,
amazing.
these I was like, "Dang." So well, we were in our 4th year, this would be our 5th year, and, basically getting the used to yeah, and so I'm like, "Everyone else has got this stuff." Like, man, that's why, like, I got the idea for, like, the umbrella and all that kinda stuff. I grill on the boat, but yeah, everyone at that sandbar grills. That's probably one of the nicest lakes here in Michigan other than, like, say, Torch Lake and Lake Michigan and all that stuff, an inland lake, I guess you can say.
Yeah, that was a good
Super
time.
clear.
Well, yeah.
It's all good. It was so fun. It went by so fast. I said it on another episode, but I just kept looking around that weekend like, I can't believe all these people are sitting here together. This is wild. The on most of it, I think mostly people were curious about like other people's involvement in Tracy's life and
Mhm.
I think people think about things like they do today and how it's different and it's kind of like, man, I would have done this or why didn't they do this or da 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 da, which obviously it's very different, different times, different everything. So that was the bulk of the curiosity.
Yeah, Thanksgiving to me was great because I mean, I got to see you guys and I got to see Brenda's side and Margaret, and so it was just and then my cousin Penny brought over, like, this suitcase of, like, photos of, like, my grandpa and my grandma and then great grandmas and grandpas, so and I'm nostalgic too, I love learning about history, I love World War II, and my grandpa was in it, and so I just felt like, th where has this
Yep.
been all my life? I was
I didn't
so
even know
Trey,
mad.
Martha had all those
you
pictures. I still have all of those pictures that Martha brought over. I won't even let them go because I didn't know she had all those wedding pictures. That tape actually came from her son Jared, so thank God he was there and was the nerdy one with the big camera because I would have never had that tape or we would have never had that tape. And yeah, I didn't know Martha had those pictures. To this day, she keeps
Yeah.
asking about them. I'm like, they're just put up.
Mm.
Like, you're not. I don't want to give them back.
I call dibs on the one of her on the bicycle. That is my ultimate favorite picture ever.
Was she
I don't
young and it was an old bicycle with like the curly
yeah,
handlebars? Because
in
I
front of,
remember that.
like, some bougainvillea looking like flowers or bushes or
Yep, so
something,
I
yeah.
actually remember that picture as a young person, as a kid too, and then again, that picture of her in the car that I recently shared recently of me and her
Yeah.
having the same car or whatever. That car, she had, but she crashed it shortly after, like, I don't wanna say after I was born, but, from what I can remember, I remember she ended up crashing it, and it sat in our driveway, and a tarp was over it, and I used to just climb under the tarp and get in the car and just act like I was driving. I'd start to, use the keys, make all the gas noises. We've always been around built motors and, old school cars and all that kind of stuff. So I would make all those noises. And then I always knew I liked Cutlasses or Monte Carlos or any of those. And full circle when I was able to finally have my own. And I kept that picture, like I said, for so long. I couldn't wait to put my own next to it and was able to finally do it.
Yeah, part of the
Yep.
reason why I ask, like, did they know that she was even pregnant, or did she just show up with me surprise, is because there's no pictures of her actually pregnant with me, and I don't know if
Right.
there's pictures of her pregnant with you, but it's just not a single photo.
I think there's with me, of course, and then there's a picture of me and the baby and then
Mhm.
my dad. And then, but like with you,
Yeah.
obviously your dad was probably wanting to hide it. And of course, back then, taking a picture was a big deal.
I feel like, from what I hear, my shady aunt was a big picture taker. So part of me is like, she's got to have something. And she's told some wild stories too, where she said, I was with your mom and you as a baby at Grandma Shirley's house. And I don't think Shirley's like, what? No. And Anna's just trying to paint a bad picture again, and it's
I do
just
want to say
sad.
pineapple.
bye.
Okay, so we lost you for a hot second and we
Yeah,
got you back.
I'm back.
So we're pretty much ending. we wanted to just hear if you had any final words to say.
No, not really. Just more or less looking forward to what we would now be our annual hangout time. But it's just like, man, like letting you know and ensuring you that you're still safe, even though clearly everything was turned upside down in your thing. It was emotional for me, so I can only, as I was expressing to my Stacy and my family, that I can only imagine what it would be for you, because like you were saying, to find this
Yeah,
out, and
I
then
think
now,
I think
uh,
that's nice that you bring that up because I I don't think, like, some people realize from my perspective as much, like and maybe even some people in your family might not realize, but yeah, my entire world was, like, flipped upside down.
would have trust. Now you feel alienated more or less. You feel alone.
I pulled myself out of so much shit with my dad, and I was like, finally, things are on a normal track, and then it was just like one thing after another growing up, and like I thought I was done with all his bullshit, and but I'm thankful, like I'm happy. I really enjoy being around you, your family, everyone,
Oh
my
yeah.
family. I just,
It's not quotes.
No, it's
I know,
definitely
but you know,
obviously takes a lot to get used to. Clearly, I mean, yeah, it's all like like I was trying to tell them, everyone that I mean, you essentially trusted. You're like, man, like you kind of got to look at them with a side eye a little bit, even though it's only a little bit, because of course they were genuine. But yeah, I mean, of course,
Mhm.
for that moment, that's why, like you said, it took you almost a month to even write me the letter, and then by then, it's still you still didn't really know what to say or how, I could only, like I said, I just kept saying, I can only imagine how you feel. It would have probably wouldn't have been as hard as if obviously mom was still alive. So if she was still alive, then it probably could have maybe, washed over smoother per se. But again, like you said, everything, it's happened for a reason. Glad that it's here now. Everything has came together. It was rushed, but then, like I said, super thankful for the 4th of July situation. We were able to slow it down. We had great weather. We were able to do a lot of activities and meet Stacy's.
Yeah, that we both said like it's just good to hear a different perspective, especially on this podcast. It's good to like hear from your side of the family's perspective and then just hearing about my mom as well, my biological mom. You hear new things all the time. So it's been great. I'm glad that you joined us.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys for having
alrighty.
me as well. Looking forward to the episode. Of
Thanks,
course, I'm
Trey.
going to critique myself. I already know. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
You did great. You did great.
Yeah,
You said
no
pineapple
worries.
and everything.
Oh my God,
I
yes.
know.
Can you say pineapple one more time?
Pineapple.
He's like, no, it's done. Pineapple.
Everybody's safe word. All right, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in to episode 8. Until next time, see ya.
Cheers. Bye.